everybody, welcome back to yet another Pokemon Showdown discussion. Today I'm going to be showing you the best teams for the doubles formats in Scarlet and Violet. That way, because we focused last time on just all the singles formats, but now we're moving on to doubles. As you can tell, there's significantly less, so hopefully this will take less time. But yeah, let's just get straight into it. Starting off with doubles OU, the biggest threat right now in doubles OU is Chio. This thing is crazy strong, and we're going to make it more crazy strong with specs and just give it powerful stab, heat wave, dark pulse, snarl to take care of your opponent's special attack, and overheat if you just want a really powerful hit that is pretty much guaranteed to KO anything on the field that has even just decent special defense. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have the physical monster chien-pao. Both of these Pokemon go really well together, as chien-pao takes care of the less physically defensive, and Chio takes care of the less specially defensive. Ice Spinner is such a reliable stab, protect, as most doubles Pokemon will be running. You'll notice that as a theme. Sacred Sword and Throat Chop, simply because Throat Chop does not rely on the priority, and it is a little bit better than Crunch because you don't really need to lower defense, and in case there's any voice moves that are going to be faced, then Throat Chop is a lot better. Yep, I like the EVs on both of these Pokemon actually. They're pretty straightforward. The next Pokemon that's really good in doubles OU is Dragonite. Dragonite is very good at coming in, taking hits, and then dealing a buttload of damage, especially since we're going to be using Banded Dragonite. And E-Speed for priority, Dragon Claw for stab, Fire Punch and Iron Head for coverage. And also Iron Head will get stab with our Terra Steel Dragonite. And we're going to EV this a little bit weird. We are going to keep that max attack if it lets me. It's having some trouble. Okay, I'm just going to type it because it's being difficult. And we're going to do 192 in HP and the remaining 64 in speed. And we're going to go with an Adamant Nature because who needs special attack? Alright, and then the next Pokemon that's going to be really helpful in doubles is Murkrow. Murkrow is crazy good in doubles right now because it is the only Prankster Tailwind user that is in Scarlet and Violet. And that is extremely important in doubles because outspeeding both your Pokemon, or increasing speed on both your Pokemon, is really good. Especially in the much more offensive meta of doubles. And also Haze really counters anything that tries to stat boost. And then Quash is really just useful for doubles, as it just forces your opponent to move last. So if you, and especially Prankster Quash, where you will guaranteed outspeed the opponent, and you will be able to force something that would normally be really fast and threatening to no longer be as fast and threatening. And yeah, sorry, I was just slowly EVing this Murkrow as I was talking about how good it is. And it's a little bit weird EVs, but I think that it fits the best for this team. And next, of course, we have another Goldengo. Wouldn't be a Showdown video about Scarlet and Violet without Goldengo. We're going to go with Specs Goldengo this time with Make It Rain, Shadow Ball, Thunderbolt, and not Shadow Ball, I just put Shadow Ball, and Power Gem. And we're going to EV this one as weird as well because we're just being quirky today. And we're going to go with a Timid set with 152 special attack and the remaining 104 in HP. And finally, we have Meowscarada. Now, what's interesting about Meowscarada in doubles is that Overgrow is actually more viable because it's more useful to have the various coverage and it's not as detrimental with a bad defensive typing in doubles as it is in singles, because your opponent may be focused on the partner Pokemon, and so bad defensive types are not as much to worry about. Of course, we're still going to run Protect because Meowscarada does not have the best defenses. We're going to do a more basic EV set. Not this one, though. We're going to go with Adamant and put those 4 in HP instead. Yeah, and here's the doubles OU team. And I think that it's able to counter pretty much everything that's an issue in the meta. If you're playing a Sun team, you'll find Torkoal on your opponent's team, which doesn't really have a direct counter, but Torkoal could get beaten by Murkrow. It gets beaten by Dragonite. Like I guess Dragonite's the best counter you have to Torkoal, and it's not that difficult to deal with. Roaring Moon is an issue, so you have chien-pao for that. Grimmsnarl gets bombarded by Terra Steel Dragonite. Arcanine gets... Yeah, fire types will be a small issue, but Dragonite really is a very good defensive option against opposing fire types, and even Chi-Yu as well. Chi-Yu doesn't take much damage from opposing fire types, but Amoonguss gets destroyed by Chi-Yu. Opposing Chi-Yu is big scary, but once again, Dragonite will be there to help take care of those fire types. Murkrow is destroyed by chien-pao. Goldango gets destroyed by Chi-Yu, and so does Meowscarada. Alright, and now we're going to move on to doubles Ubers, which is in the, I wrote here that is top 35 because I'm actually the 33rd player in doubles Ubers. So I'd say that this is the format I have the most expertise on. And we're going to start with Fluttermane, because Fluttermane is easily the strongest Pokemon in doubles Ubers right now. It's so incredibly good. You'll pretty much want to lead with it almost every time. But because the power level is so high, we're going to run a lot of Focus Sashers on this team. Shadow Ball, Gleam, Protect, and Mystical Fire. This is a pretty standard Fluttermane set, but it definitely gets the job done. And of course we're going to want Koraidon, because why would we not want Koraidon? We want that Sun immediately. We want that Photosynthesis out on turn 1. We're going to Sash it as well to really give it a chance against opposing Fluttermanes. Collision Cores for Stab, Flare Blitz for post-Terra Stab, and Sun Boosted. Breaking Swipe because it hits both opponents and lowers attack. And then of course Protect. Protect is even more important in doubles Ubers because everything is so strong. One hit does crazy amounts of damage. Now for Miraidon, we're actually going to run a Life Orb set because its coverage is a little bit more important. So of course we have Drift, but we're going to add Dazzling Gleam to really take care of opposing box arts, and Protect of course, and Dragon Pulse for Dragon Stab. And we're going to do a basic Timid EV spread. Next we're going to add yet another Dragonite. Dragonite is also still very good in doubles Ubers. We're going to keep that Terra Steel. We're going to make another Banded Dragonite. Just be careful with Banded Dragonite, because there will be many times you'll want to go for Earthquake. Which this is another reason why we have Protect on so many things, is because Protect will make it so you do not take damage from Dragonite's Earthquake, because it will hurt your own Pokemon as well, and that is far from ideal. We're going to EV it a little bit weirder this time to have a little bit more bulk, because like I said, bulk is more important in doubles Ubers. Yeah, there we go. And nature will be Adamant. Alright, now we're going to get some of the weird picks that are considered almost like hot takes. I think Ditto is incredibly good in doubles Ubers. Simply because you can have like another box art on your team basically, or an opposing Chi-Yu, an opposing bundle. You don't know. The list, like, it's using your opponent's Pokemon against them. And it's always been notorious that Ditto is better in stronger formats because you have stronger Pokemon to transform into. We're gonna go with a Jolly. No, I'm gonna go Timid. But yeah, Ditto is a lot stronger in higher tiers, and that's also why I think Ditto is incredibly good in double Ubers. And the last pick is going to be Talonflame. Now you may be thinking, like, why Talonflame? Well, Talonflame, Koraidon gets beaten by Talonflame. Sash to keep it alive. And we're going to go with Gale Wings, simply to always outspeed and kill Koraidon. It is a hard Koraidon counter without Terra. If your opponent has Terra and they send in their Koraidon, Talonflame is your answer. Those Brave Birds are going to hit hard. And of course still have Stab Flavorless, as well as Quick Guard, in case your opponent tries to use their own priority moves, specifically Dragonite Extreme Speed or opposing Talonflame Brave Bird. And I'm going to go with this EV6 I'm going to switch to Adamant. So yeah, this is the team that I rock in top 35 with. Of course, being able to take care of your opponent's threats are important. So Flutter is really good against opposing Flutter. Koraidon gets beaten by Gleam Miraidon, as well as, like I said, Gale Wings, Brave Bird, Talonflame. Miraidon gets beaten by Earthquake Dragonite, as well as Gleam Fluttermane. Bundle gets destroyed by Miraidon. Chi-Yu is destroyed by Earthquake Dragonite. Iron Hands is destroyed by Earthquake Dragonite, as well as Dazzling Gleam from both Flutter and Miraidon. And then Dragonite also gets destroyed by those Gleams. Opposing Dittos, it really just depends on what you're facing. And then, of course, if you find yourself in a situation against an opposing Talonflame, then we don't really have a direct counter for that, but like Miraidon is always a good choice to destroy opposing Talonflames when other people pick up on the strategy that Gale Wings Talonflame destroys Koraidon. Alright, doubles UU. In this, we're gonna go with somewhat of a sand team, but like not really. So our lead Pokemon is going to be Hippowdon, because I think Hippowdon is really good in the tier right now. And not Terra Psychic. Why would you ever Terra Psychic? Anyways, we're gonna go Smooth Rock to extend those sand turns. Slack Off for healing. Whirlwind to send in opponent on those rocks, and Stomping Tantrum as its one attack. And this is because obviously we don't want Earthquake to be destroying our own Pokemon in this tier. We're gonna go with max HP, just 4 attack, but we'll do 112 and a nature boost in defense, with that being Impish, and then we'll put the rest in special defense. Now, of course, we're going to want a Pokemon that immediately utilizes that sand, so we're going to go with pretty much the only Sand Rush Pokemon in the game right now, which is Lycanroc, and we'll go Terra Water. And it will be Sash, because it is not bulky whatsoever. Rock Slide for stab that hits both opponents. Endeavor, in case you do end up taking a bunch of damage. Close Combat for coverage, and then, of course, Protect, as you run on most doubles Pokemon. And we are going to go, once again, it's giving me the nature that I don't want. I want a Jolly Lycanroc. And next we have Tinkaton, who is once again rocking the UU format. We are going to go with a Clear Amulet, which is basically just the ability Clear Body, but as an item, which I think is really cool. Of course, can't have Tinkaton without Gigaton Hammer. Play Rough First Fairy Stab, Fake Out, because that's really good in doubles as well, and Encore, which locks your opponent into a move, and that could be absolutely devastating depending on the opponent. Next we have Iron Moth, and I think Iron Moth is really good with booster energy because the only reliable electric terrain setter in this tier is Pincurchin. It was good last month. This month it is not as good. So now Iron Moth just will run booster energy, whatever. Hit really strong with all of these attacks. We're also going to go Terra Grass to beat, if your opponent's trying to use ground moves, then you just Terra Grass and you Energy Ball. And I like to call Iron Moth Solarona. And Fire Dance for Fire Stab. And we're going to go with the basic special EV spread. Next we're going to go with Clodsire, who also benefits from the sand. And we'll go Water Absorb to get rid of a weakness. Black Sludge for healing. And we're going to have it be more of a hazard setter. Toxic Spikes, Protect, Spikes, and Stomping Tantrum as well. And we're going to go with a weird EV spread again. Max HP, just 4 in attack, 176 in defense, and 76 nature boost in special defense. And we'll drop that speed since its speed is already atrocious. And finally, we're going to go with Oranguru with Telepathy because this is doubles. We're actually going to go with the Terra Fairy and Mental Herb to cure these moves if you use it. More specifically, Encore and Disable and Taunt are the ones that you're going to be seeing the most. Instruct is such a good move because it allows your partner Pokemon to basically attack twice. Trick Room also because Clodsire is slow. Tinkaton is not slow. These Pokemon are really fast, but Trick Room will be really good if you're just like using Claude. I also forgot to change Claude's Terra type. It needs to be Terra Ground. And then Psychic and Hyper Voice for stab. So really you only want to use Trick Room if Claude is out. If everything else is out, like everything else is more speed based except for Hippowdon. So really these 3 are the slow 3 and these 3 are the fast 3. So it's a good speed dynamic that you can really have speed control with Trick Room. 248 HP. We're going to go 136 defense. And we'll put the rest in special attack and then do a plus special attack minus speed nature. So quiet. And yeah, I really like this team's design. I think it's a good mix of sand and Trick Room. And really one of the biggest threats in doubles UU are the future Paradox Mons. So Iron Valiant gets beaten by Tinkaton. Pincurchin gets beaten by Hippowdon. Iron Jugulus gets beaten by Lycanroc. Iron Thorns gets beaten by Hippowdon. Iron Treads gets beaten by Hippowdon. Florges gets beaten by Tinkaton. Opposing Iron Moth to get beaten by Hippowdon. Opposing Hippowdon, you pretty much just go with whatever option works. Terra Grass, Iron Moth works very well for that. Lycanroc gets destroyed by Tinkaton. Tinkaton itself gets beaten by Iron Moth. Clodsire gets beaten by Hippowdon, and Oranguru gets beaten by nothing in particular on this team. So if your opponent has Oranguru, then it'll be a little bit scary, but I think it'll go down eventually. Alright, 2v2. This, like 1v1, you bring significantly less Pokemon, you only bring 4, and you only send in 2 Pokemon into the battle. The best Pokemon in this format right now is Iron Hands, or like I like to call them, Stariyama. But basically, we want to Assault Vest so that we have that special defense boosted as well. And just go for a... Oh, I made a mistake in making the set, but we're going to try this again. Wild Charge. No, never mind. I did mess up. For a second I thought this was a choice item. Fake out. Wild charge. Close combat. And drain punch. And we're gonna go with a... Yeah, the CV spread works. And then to partner with it, we're gonna go with Mimikyu, because this is one of the easiest ways to set up Trick Room. Super, super reliable. And so of course we're gonna go with Life Orb, and we're gonna have its offensive moves: Play Rough, Shadow Claw, Shadow Sneak for priority, and then of course Trick Room. Trick Room is set up so easily by Mimikyu, since the first hit it takes does very, very, very little damage. And yeah, we're gonna go with the ZV spread as well, because it's Trick Room, so we don't want higher speed. Skeledirge is also really good in 2v2. We're gonna go with an Unaware Weakness Policy set. Terra Ghost, in case we don't want to in case we want to activate it after we get our boost from Weakness Policy. Shadow Ball for stab, Earth Power for coverage, Fire Blast for power, and then Protect as for most doubles Pokemon. We're gonna EV this weird again. 204 in HP. Max defense, nature boosted. We don't need speed once again, since this is a Trick Room team. And they'll put the remaining 52 in special attack. And then finally we have Hatterene, yet another Pokemon that really benefits from Trick Room. So these are all Pokemon that, like, Mimikyu is pretty much going to every battle, and then just pick your other offensive threat that you want to bring along with it. Magic Bounce, we're gonna want to go with Gleam for stab, Psychic for stab, Mystical Fire for coverage and weakening your opponent, and then of course Protect. And then we're gonna EV this one a little bit more normal, except for we're gonna move that 4 to defense, since I think physical defense is more important in this meta in particular. As for things to look out for, Fluttermane is still around in this tier, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't seen it in a while, so it might have gotten banned without me knowing. But in that case, you have Mimikyu. Raichu you might see sometimes to get rid of it. Skeledirge, Meowscarada gets beaten by Skeledirge. Cerulege gets beaten by Skeledirge. Just be careful with your strong ghost moves. Armarouge gets beaten by Skeledirge. Indeedee gets beaten by... nothing in particular on this team, but I think just being able to... you can force your way through an Indeedee. Paldean, Tauros gets beaten by Skeledirge. Iron Hands gets beaten by Skeledirge. Opposing Mimikyu gets beaten by your own Mimikyu, but also Skeledirge. And then opposing Skeledirge, then you have Earth Power on your Skeledirge. Sorry, I'm saying Skeledirge a lot. And Hatterene gets destroyed by really any of the moves you have on this team. Sorry, that explanation seemed terrible, but you get the idea. Use these 4 Pokemon. And finally, we have VGC, the official format for Pokemon battling. And now that the Paradox Mons are allowed, we are going to be taking advantage of that. So, of course, the best Pokemon in VGC right now is Flutter. Like, if you can use Fluttermane, then use Fluttermane. We're going to have a Sash once again, because I like being able to live and actually using Fluttermane's, like, stupid strong stats. Of course, we have its 2 stabs, Protect, and Moonblast in case you want to do more consolidated damage to one Pokemon instead of having a spread move. I like this EV spread, except for I want to move this 4 to HP. Yep, and once again, we're calling it Misdactylus. And our next Pokemon we're adding is Iron Hands. Once again, Really, really good doubles Pokemon. Stariyama. And we're going with the Terra Steel. This one will be AV as well. And basically the same set that we gave it for 2v2. With the exception of Thunder Punch instead of Close Combat. Because I think the electric coverage is a bit more important. In case you want to actually like just hit for solid damage and not have to deal with recoil. Max attack, max special defense because it needs that special defense boost. We'll put the remaining in HP. I think we'll do an attack plus nature and minus speed because we don't need speed on this thing. Next we're going to have Amoonguss, good old Amoonguss. Still very, very good in VGC since its introduction. Rocky Helmet, so that hitting it will still damage your opponent. Spore, because you're mean. Rage Powder, because you're mean. Pollen Puff, because you're mean. And Protect, because you're mean. Basically, it's a mean Amoonguss. Max HP with 156 nature boosted, and we don't need speed still because we're making all these Pokemon slow. I don't really, it's not a Trick Room team, but like if your opponent is using Trick Room, then you'll still be able to keep up. Next we have Iron Bundle. So Iron Bundle is still pretty solid in this in VGC meta, and we're gonna go with Booster Energy to make it really get that speed, so then it'll be really, really strong and really, really fast. Not Freeze Shock, you can't have that. Freeze Dry, Icy Wind for slowing both of your opponents down. Protect as always, and Hydro Pump because every Iron Bundle runs Hydro Pump. And we're gonna go with a basic EV spread. By the way, we're nicknaming it Telebird. Okay, next we have Arcanine, who I discussed earlier that Arcanine is really, really good in doubles, simply because it's a fire type with Intimidate, which is extremely valuable. Safety Goggles to prevent just any of the powder moves, especially Sandstorm. Flare Blitz, not Flamethrower, Flare Blitz. I believe Safety Goggles applies to Spore as well. So I think that's really, really important to have your Arcanine be not asleep. Snarl for weakening opponents, Protect, and Will-O-Wisp to cripple those physical attackers. We're going to EV this one weird as well. Max HP, a 76 nature boosted attack with 100 defense. Nope on special attack. And then 44 and 36. Much more balanced EV EV spread for a solid Pokemon. And finally, our last Pokemon we're going to be adding for this video is going to be Roaring Moon, aka Malamence, because it's evil. But yeah, we're going to go with Life Orb and Terra Fairy. And then, of course, we're going to Protect. Acrobatics for some solid flying damage in case you get knocked off. Throat Chop, once again, easy, consolidated dark type move. And then Tailwind, as Tailwind is still very, very useful in VGC. You'll still see Markrow everywhere despite that, and I just think that Roaring Moon is a really, really cool Tailwinder, and I think it's also very effective. Yeah, so this is going to be the team for VGC. Things to look out for: you got Meowscarada, which gets obliterated by Flutter. Dondozo gets beaten by Iron Hands. Tatsugiri gets beaten by Flutter. Sylveon gets beaten by nothing in particular on this team, but it's defensively Amoonguss is easily your best option, and Poison Goldango really gets beaten by Flutter, and Roaring Moon. And then opposing Iron Hands, you have not Arcanine. It's not a Steel type, despite what it looks. You have opposing Flutter. Amoonguss gets beaten by Iron Bundle. Just be careful of opposing grass moves if they have any. Opposing Bundles get beaten by Iron Hands. Opposing Arcanines get beaten by Bundle, and opposing Roaring Moons get beaten by Bundle. And that's going to be it for this video. And I hope you enjoy playing Pokemon Showdown in these doubles formats, using these teams. And yeah.